Welcome! My name is Kelly.
And my name is Brynn.
And this is Fanimated. An animation fan podcast where we get a chance to geek out about our favorite animated media. And today is a Whatcha watching day, which means Brynn and I are just going to geek out about all the shows that we are geeking out about right now.
What you're watching. That jingle is going to stick someday. It's gonna happen.
You know, it already gets stuck in my head. Or I'll be just like, I need to schedule a Whatcha watching with Brynn. It has caught on already, at least in my brain. Oh my goodness, there is so much to talk about today. So let's just dive straight in. It's 2021. We're here. Let's talk about animation.
Okay, so going back to Christmas of the year that shall not be named, I watched Jingle Jangle. Did you watch Jingle Jangle?
Yes, I did, girl. I watched Jingle Jangle.
Oh my gosh. The whole thing, first of all, but
yeah.
Specifically because this is Fanimated. The animation of it was so smooth and so precious. Good.
Yeah.
It worked so well with the aesthetic that they had going on, that steampunk aesthetic. It was so good. If you haven't seen Jingle Jangle, even though it's technically past the holiday times, go watch it. It is so worth watching. It's so good.
It feels like the Greatest Showman type feel,
except it's not about somebody who's awful in reality.
Yeah. But it has those fun musical numbers and it's colorful, beautiful costuming and that kind of feel,
No, the guy who is the villain, I saw him in something else recently and it blew my mind. He was in Prom. That's what it was.
Oh, did you like Prom?
Yes! Did you see it?
No, I haven't seen it
That's
yet.
why. So, okay, James, that's another one. James and I were, hanging out, and we were like, well, let's watch something that's, low stakes and whatever. And I was like, oh, ha, 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 let's watch this. It's a Broadway musical that has, top performers in it. Let's see. It has Nicole Kidman, Ariana DeBose, James Corden, Meryl Streep.
Oh my gosh.
Ariana Grande, all of these people these huge big name Broadway people, and they are failures on Broadway because they're so selfish and self-absorbed. And they opened a show and everybody's saying they're too self-absorbed and blah blah blah, and so they find on TikTok or Twitter or Instagram or something about a girl who got denied going to prom because she's a lesbian, and they're like, hey, we'll go there and then we'll save her prom and make a whole big deal of it. We'll have a parade and then that'll be the HR that we need, or the press that we need.
Oh, yeah.
And so they go with this hero complex, and this whole thing happens, and it revolves around this girl who's a lesbian, and her family, her school won't let her into the prom, and there's this whole thing. It is so well done. I cried. And there's a song that's oh, well, this is clearly popular from Wicked, but really well done. And then this one's Chicago, clearly, and inside baseball for theater people with gay pride and being yourself, and it's just so good.
Wow. I did not expect that to be the case, so
I didn't either. I wasn't expecting to cry either. It was so good.
All right, you've convinced me. I'll add it to my watch list.
So anyway, that's Prom. But the villain, the reason we got onto there is because the villain from Jingle Jangle is in that as well.
Yeah.
Gosh, he can sing. So, anyways, so there's that. Animated wise, though, I had been watching Clone Wars, which is great. It gives Anakin a personality that you might actually like. It explains a lot about him. He's not quite as hot and cold in it. Although, like, in Clone Wars, you can see where he snaps. And he snaps very quickly, very, like, on very specific things. And I'm like, oh, the prequels make sense now. Since I watched Clone Wars. And plus you get introduced to Ahsoka and her relationship with Anakin, and like Obi-Wan's relationship with the both of them is just so good. Well, I heard that Rebels was better to watch for The Mandalorian because the finale was coming up, and so I started watching Rebels, not thinking that it was going to be any different from Clone Wars, but my God, I was wrong. So Rebels, it follows a young Padawan who, well, he wasn't a Padawan, he was a street rat, kind of like an urchin, who gets picked up by Kanan, who is almost a Jedi Knight. And blah, 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 smugglers, blah, blah, awesomeness. But it stays within that ship. I really love it. It has so much more direct character development, story development. It's easier to tell what's going on and where, and you're not bouncing back and forth and everything. And I have been binging it.
Wow.
I haven't finished it yet. We've gotten to a really, really big plot point that I can't tell because of spoilers. Although, if you've seen Rebels, you probably know which one I'm talking about.
I'm so glad that, you've got this other Star Wars thing to hang on to, which is so great. Especially after Mandalorian finishing.
Sad day. But yeah, and I wasn't done with Rebels yet, and I'm trying to pace myself, kind of like how you were with the Age of Calamity tutorial, or not tutorial, but the demo.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to pace myself so that I don't run out.
I get it. It's everyone's had that feeling. We don't like getting to the end of things. We try to make it last.
I really like Rebels, and so if you watched Clone Wars and were kind of like, watch Rebels and then see, because it's not like Clone Wars at all. Animation wise, it is similar to Clone Wars, although it is a step above. They've gotten their feet underneath them, obviously. But the storytelling is just so good.
That's awesome.
Mostly that and rewatching, Owl House.
Yes. Yes, girl, yes. Owl House has been so fun. And, like, man, I can't believe I've been sleeping on it for so long. And it's great. I love all the characters and the crazy world, and it's a joy. It's a joy, for sure.
Yes, I agree. So, Kelly, what you been watching?
Oh my goodness, guys. I've been watching so many things. I have so much on my list. I don't even know where to start. But first, we actually have an ad break this episode. So I'm going to let that roll. And
ads?
Well, see, we've supported this show before, and you'll actually recognize a lot of the voices from
That's
this
so
ad.
exciting.
It's for Knight's Quest.
Oh, those nerds.
Yes, those nerds. You'll recognize Jamie and Jake's voices. They are on the podcast every once in a while too, and so they're just starting their third season. So I'll just let them talk about it.
Well, hello, fellow travelers to the podcast airwaves. I'm Nathan.
I'm Jake. I'm Jamie.
And oh, look what's this. Why, it's something we made I'd like to tell you about. It's Knight's Quest.
Knight's Quest is a fantasy RPG podcast where the three of us use dice and our imaginations to write a story together.
We're putting some wacky characters through whatever situations we can think of to tell an interesting story, and it's improvised, so we don't even know where it's going to go next.
Sometimes we buy socks. Sometimes we talk about bread. And sometimes we accidentally summon the god of chaos.
Just an average Friday here on Knight's Quest.
And with an original musical score for every episode, you won't want to miss anything that's happening in our story here at Knight's Quest, every other Friday, wherever podcasts can be found.
Yeah, we'll play some dodgeball and we'll get thrown in the dungeon by the king. It's fine. We'll do it all here on Knight's Quest.
And we're back.
Yay, we're back.
We're back. And yeah,
aren't
seriously,
those nerds glorious?
Glorious nerds. We love them. We love their show. Yeah, have you listened to the beginning of the third season yet?
Not the beginning of the third season, no.
Okay, well, I just listened to it and I'm like, oh dang, things are getting real. It's so fun because they create such a in-depth world, but also the three of them are just hilarious. So
As we knew they would be.
Of course. So definitely check them out if you want to. In other news, I've been watching lots of television.
Shocker! Kelly, this is so out of your character. I'm so confused.
Oh man, guys. Well, speaking of live action things, I'm just going to throw this out there that I've been rewatching all the Harry Potter movies with my sister. And guys, I just love Harry Potter. Like, I have a deep emotional connection with these stories, as I'm sure a lot of you do.
Oh yeah. Before we found out about She Who Shall Not Be Named.
Oh, right. But you know what? The stories no longer, like, once something is published, it no longer belongs to its author. It belongs to its readers.
Oh, absolutely.
And I love Harry Potter. Okay, moving on. I blame Harry Potter for my, like, father-son relationship obsession. Is that fair to say?
Because it's serious?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, here's the
Sirius
thing.
was my favorite.
Okay, the third book has been and will always be my favorite Harry Potter book.
Same.
And throughout the books, like, Harry keeps interacting with all these father figures, and they always die or let him down. Oh, okay. Anyway, so that's just been a lot of fun. Okay, so I also finally started watching Cowboy Bebop. Everyone,
Kelly!
shock and awe. I know.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. I try.
I'm so excited. What do you think?
I think I need to get a little further in. I love the vibe so far, and I love this weird, really weird universe. Spike is great. Just like his character is great.
Yes.
Just like, I don't even know how to describe it. He's just like your suave, bang bang, shoot 'em up cowboy.
And this was before Firefly, so you can definitely see Cowboy Bebop inspiration within Firefly, and even like Mandalorian in some ways too.
Oh,
like,
you know what? That is a great comparison. Like, the tones of the shows feel very similar in that way.
Because they're both based off of Westerns.
Right. That's fair. So
No, like totally, but like I think that those two, I didn't mean it as like a Kelly, they're both no, like
no.
They both are much closer to the true Western feel than Firefly was ever. Like it's a really good compare. Like, you're right, I didn't even think about it until I said that I said it.
I mean, that's what we do on this podcast. We just verbally process until we make revelations like that. Or like, oh, it's all a Western.
Yeah.
So, I'm enjoying that. Thank you to everyone for continuously shoving that down my throat. And I'm finally...
Badgering.
I'm fine in the most loving and caring way imaginable. And I'm finally loving and digesting it. And I'm excited to...
I just had this visual picture of fans just like taking a box that's labeled Cowboy Bebop and like your mouth like unhinged. It's 'cause we love you. It's just
oh man, it's true. It's true.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So I've been digesting that and liking it, and I'm slowly getting through it because I don't want. It's just like with The Mandalorian. I like that it's just every week you watch your little episode. It still has that same vibe. So I'm enjoying that. Okay. One that I just watched last night actually was, and I'm gonna pronounce this wrong, Mirai. It's on Netflix. It's a movie. It's an anime movie. And I was just like, I just wanted something chill to watch. And it is about this boy, and he gets a new baby sister, and it's her future self comes back to the past to like talk with him. It's so cute. Like I don't know how to explain this. Like sometimes the movie feels like a PBS show and sometimes I'm like, this is the most profound thing ever. You know, like it's like a weird mix of like this weird fun little adventure that this kid is on, and also very much adults will glean a lot from this.
Neat.
Like the whole it's a slower paced. It's really just if you just need something to sit and just like wash over you. I turned it on thinking I was going to turn it off after I had finished eating dinner. I didn't get up from off the couch once I started. So that tells you anything. Like,
wow, all right.
I was laughing, I was crying, like, and the animation was gorgeous. Like some really great 3D animation work in it. So
this is your prom.
Yes, when I wasn't expecting to love it this much, and then I did, and I cried.
Yep. Laughed, cried. Yep, this sounds about right.
Oh my goodness. It just reminded me so much, like, of all these little details about, like, a newborn, and, like, my niece was born this fall. You know, just little things. Like, I was just, like, connecting everything to her, and I was just like, little babies. Anyway, I would recommend if you need something a little more chill and just, like...
There.
It was just so beautiful, and I just have a lot to say about it, so I'm like, you know, maybe I'm gonna have to do an episode on it at some point.
Right, of course.
It's not I don't want to put it as like a pinnacle of films or anything, but it definitely is one that I will watch again. Like, it's nice. It's one that I enjoyed a lot. I also watched Soul.
I haven't seen it yet! Oh!
That's Pixar's new film, guys. It's on Disney+.
I've heard so many mixed reviews about it.
Here's where I stand.
Okay.
It is not my favorite Pixar film. It is beautifully done. It's just like with any animated media, and I say this all the time, this is kind of like my mantra, right? Like, it's going to impact some people in really profound ways if it came at the right time for them and if it hits them the right way. Like, there's so much value in that. And this story in particular has so much to give to the people who need it right now. I was not one of those people, but that does not diminish its value on the world. With that being said, and with basically to say, don't take my word for it, just go watch it yourself, be open to it, and see how you feel. But for me, like, okay, so the basic themes are like, what's your purpose? You know, what is a human's purpose? What is your specific purpose? Like, and
what an easy theme to tackle.
That's Pixar for you, which I always appreciate about Pixar films. And it's interesting because just before I'd watched it, I had spoken to two different friend conversations about how dissatisfied I feel with like my life and I just want to find my purpose and all those things. But I feel like it's such a deep part of, I mean, this isn't anything new for me. This is like one of my constant struggles, right? I feel like we all have those things that we just like are at our core, we struggle with the most. And because it's something that I've wrestled with so deeply in so many different ways, this felt very much surface level. This movie does not explore very deeply into the topic. Its purpose is more to be like, let's open the door to this question. Like
Purpose 101.
Right. But it is interesting because a lot of I was even going into it with like some hesitation. Like, I had put up barriers in my own self, like, because I do have a problem sometimes suspending my disbelief for narratives about the afterlife, because I have so many of my own very strong beliefs about it. And even, you know, pushing that aside and being like, okay, I'm going to enjoy this as like what it is. I still like have some of those reservations, and I'm very grateful actually that they don't spend as much time in that world as I thought they would. So they actually spend a lot of time on Earth in New York, which was honestly some of the best parts of the film. I mean, man, I could go on and on about this movie. Honestly, I could just
like
do
for a whole episode.
I could just do a whole episode on this movie. Basically, because I just have so much to say. But basically, I feel like some of the problems I had with it, and like the main character's sole motivation is is to he wants to be a musician, and that's what he wants to do. And then there's just some really good scenes. Man, I shouldn't spoil things, but it's like his whole motivation bothered me and was like really, really like nails on chalkboard. And I was just like, this is a horrible message, blah, blah, blah. And then at the end, I'm like, oh, they answered my own problems with it. Like, okay, I get it. I see you. I get it. Okay, good job.
Yeah.
So basically all of that to say, like, it's opening the door. It's asking a question. I feel like there are other ways they could have done it, but you know, I just didn't emotionally connect. But I know a lot of other people that did, and that is awesome. And you could too, and you should watch it.
We'll find out because I need to watch it still. Yeah.
Just watch it and let me know. I also think that this is a very, very mature film. I don't think a lot of kids are going to get it, which I think is a very positive direction, I think, for Pixar. Like, obviously, you know, make content that resonates with children where that needs to be, but also that such a major studio in the US is making content that honestly only adults are really going to get the most value out of.
I'm interested to see it now because, like, my favorite kind of like age group is 4th, 5th, 6th, where kids are starting to develop a sense of the abstract and start asking about things. Like, purpose is probably a question that's a little bit later in life, but some of my kids are already there. Some of the kids that I've had in my classroom are already there. And so I'm interested to see, because you said that it's not really aimed towards kids. I'm interested to see in my like memory of some of my kids if any of them would actually like be interested in watching it, because kids surprise me all the time.
And this is why I feel like, even though it's not one that like struck me, I feel like I could talk about it forever. My thesis was on death and the portrayal of death in children's literature.
Oh,
and
cool.
I actually did similar research for like film and animated media before as well.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can tell where my passions lie, right?
That's awesome. No, but Kelly, that's so cool. Like, awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, it's fascinating to me. I mean, even not just for children audiences, but also just like, how do we as humans like portray death in our stories, and how do we reconcile that? Because it's like your one inevitable fate, right? The one thing that all humans deal with, you know? And so it's just fascinating, especially to think about, you know, we should give children credit where it's due, and, you know, you should not sweep it under the rug, because they can grasp a lot more than we give them credit for.
In your research of it, did you find many portrayals of death as a welcoming, like, hey, let's go, it's time to go? Because I've been seeing, like, there's one artist in particular that comes to mind, and I can't remember their name, but they particularly they showed death with animals that have just died, and death is saying like, hey, you know, I see it's time to go, but they bring them by their owner to show them like how their owner cared about them. Or will bring them somewhere to kind of bring them to peace first. And I know that there are also portrayals of death that are just like, hey, it's your time. Like, come on, let's go. I'm going to take you. We're going to have some hot cocoa. Like, let's head out. Instead of this, like, ominous, death, you are now dead, blah, blah, blah. Like, more of a warm embrace than a scary figure.
Yeah, that's really cool. I looked a lot more at the grief process and how we deal with the death of others rather than our own mortality, which also, though, is something that I'm, like, interested in, because how do we, reconcile that, especially at younger ages. But
Zelda, Majora's Mask,
right? Oh man,
just saying.
I mean, it's true. It's from what I basically, The Lion King is one of my favorite portrayals of death in animated media, because it is one of the few places, and this is what a lot of especially animated films do, is they breeze over it, or it's just a plot point and there's not a lot of time to grieve. And I like The Lion King because Simba has like a full-on cry, like a full-on good cry on screen. And obviously we've talked on the show about tons of great media that like talks about grief and goes through all these things. Anyway, wow, this could just become the Soul podcast. So
no, I mean, like, Soul into death and portrayal of death in animation. Yeah. I think this is the nature of what you're watching.
This is the nature of what you're watching.
Let's talk about philosophy next, or more philosophy next.
Yes.
Let's just have a philosophy episode.
Honestly, so death and media and Soul is a movie that has death in it. Oh man, yeah.
This is such a good night.
It's so great, guys. Oh man. Yeah, I could go on and on and on,
and someday you will,
and someday I will
episode
in a whole episode on Soul, and who knows what else, but yeah, that is, for those of you who don't know now, that's a passion of mine. Not passion's weird, but like it's an interest of mine, I guess, of like,
that's so cool,
of analyzing media and analyzing like the way we talk about death, especially to kids, is so impactful and meaningful. Like, they need a place to talk about it because they do have questions. And so if you're not introducing children to, and that's the biggest thing I've learned in my research, is like, if you don't introduce children to the concept of death, like, and open up, you don't, I mean, like, they're going to be introduced to the concept before you think they are ready, like, and they will have questions and things they want to talk about. And if you don't open the door, and I think like animated media or any media, like it could be a book, I looked a lot at like even Charlotte's Web, right, as a really great resource for just opening the door to talk about death. If anything, I mean, I don't think Soul is the resource to open the door to talk about death. Honestly, I think Soul is the door to talk about life.
That's so interesting, though. Like, isn't that two sides of a coin? You know?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Why talks about death absolutely affect your talks about life or your thoughts about life and what that means. So I think that's super interesting, and I can't wait to see Soul now, because I really want to I want to know what you're saying, and I want to comment on what you're saying, because there are so many things going through my head about what that means.
Yes. Well, if anything, even though I had said earlier, Soul is kind of surface level, like, it did open the door, and it opened the door to this conversation. So, like,
right.
I think it did its job.
It doesn't take much to open the door to our conversations, but hopefully it will open the door to other conversations as well, and that's kind of the point, you know?
Right.
Definitely.
Well, because this is a Whatcha Watchin' and we can't talk for 2 hours.
You sure? I think
I
we're closing in on an hour now, aren't we?
we're getting there. I will probably cut things.
No!
Sorry, guys. You don't get to hear what we said. Anyway, I will just end with this other little note. I don't want to alarm anybody or freak anybody out too bad, but I have started an official rewatch of Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Yes! Which I was able to be a part of the beginning of that.
Yes, I had a Netflix party with some friends, and
It was so good!
I watched 13 episodes that day, and I haven't gotten
Which is, I don't know if y'all have watched things with Kelly. That's a lot for Kelly to sit down and watch 13 episodes in a row. Kelly doesn't binge things through the night.
No.
I'm impressed, Kelly.
Thank you. I think it's because we started early. We started in the afternoon, so
Yeah, we started at like 3.
Got through all of that. We are going to talk about Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood in a future episode. That's why I'm watching it, is I'm preparing for an episode on it. But I went in thinking, is this still going to be my favorite anime? Because right now it sits as like my favorite anime of all time. Mm-hmm. But caveat, it was also the first anime I've ever watched. So, you know, It's kind of like, is it true?
You never forget your first.
Is it true or is it just me? But I'm rewatching it and I'm like, oh no, it's still the best anime that I've ever watched.
That's so good.
You'll have to like stay tuned to find out why when I eventually talk about it on the podcast.
That one and Inuyasha are like, I need Inuyasha's junk food for me, because I watch Inuyasha like on repeat in the background when I'm doing anything that doesn't need my brain attached to it, right?
Yeah.
But like Fullmetal is one that I can always come back to and really like connect to.
Speaking of death, go watch Fullmetal Alchemist. But seriously, go watch it if you haven't, or rewatch it if you want to, and get prepped for us talking about it. Because
definitely rewatch it. Like there's so much packed into it.
This is my 4th time rewatching it, and I'm still just like, oh, that connects to that, and what? It's great. It's great. All right, with that, I think we should sign out because we've been talking.
We've been talking a lot. All right.
I didn't even get to mention Age of Calamity, so wait until next What You Watching when I geek out about that. That's like all I've been playing over holiday break. So,
by the way, I bought James Pokemon Shield, and it's his first Pokemon game.
Yes!
By the way, James has an Atari. He has, like, a Dreamcast. He has the original, like, Nintendo. Like, I can't tell you how many an entire wall of video game stuff. And this is his first Pokemon.
Wow.
Which is my only claim to any video game as a child or teenager or adult. So, like, the fact that I got to introduce it to him is really exciting.
That is super fun. Super fun.
Yeah. So anyway, we should sign off.
You can be part of the Fanimated crew over at patreon.com/Fanimated to vote for upcoming episode topics. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Fanimated Podcast to stay up to date with all things animated. And don't forget to leave a rating review telling us what you'd like us to watch next. The music is provided by Purple Planet Music. The art is done by myself. You can find me on Instagram at Candor Draw. I just drew Edward Elric. You should check it out.
Yeah, you did.
And thanks, Brynn, for being here and talking about
And thanks for having me, Kelly.
Great. Well, we'll be chatting at you next week with something. I don't know. It's a mystery because the patrons are voting on it. So, yeah,
Great.
It's 2021, everybody. We're here.
As always, Black Lives Matter.
Stay tuned.
And stay Fanimated. I I know there's no animation in it, but God, Kelly, it's so good.
Guys, despite what you might think, I do watch things that aren't animated. That don't have animation in them.
I know, but we're on Fanimator right now, but everybody needs to watch it because it's just so good and it's so queer positive and just people positive.